Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a segment of creating awareness of what domestic abuse may look like. I am Melinda, and I am an abuse survivor. So, this week, we are going to be doing it's pretty much a spinoff from my last segment about betrayal trauma. This was betrayal trauma, was us. Learning how to acknowledge that our partner traumatized us some way. Maybe they cheated on us. Maybe there was, they did something that betrayed us. So this is about us, the victims, betrayal blindness. So this week's topic is about betrayal blindness. And we will start with a scripture. This is coming from Judges chapter 16, verse 6, and it's about the story of Samson and Delilah. And I definitely encourage you guys to read that story because I feel like the story is a great way to noticing red flags in our partner and how we may become numb to that, and how sometimes that we see it but we don't want to see it for whatever reasons. It's like we just decide to ignore or not acknowledge. We don't want to acknowledge these red flags. So I'm only going to do one scripture, but I got this scripture from the ideal of the story behind Samson and Delilah, how she kept trying to gain knowledge from him on, tell me what's your weakness. And, he would tell her this and tell her that. And she kept constantly trying to get him to expose his weakness so that he could be captured. And eventually he did get captured because he let his guard down. So this is Judges 16:6. And Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee." So, what is betrayal blindness? This is when we want to prevent or lessen the damage of betrayal from our intimate partner. So, we conveniently forget the trauma they cause by pushing it maybe to the back of our mind. We downplay it, or unconsciously, we just ignore the betrayal that they cause to us. It is more of a survival mechanism for us, the victim of this betrayal. We don't want to confront it. We don't want the truth of our partner betraying us. So, how does betrayal blindness manifest? This manifests in many ways. So, and this isn't in any particular order. I'm just kind of just talk to you guys. So, again, going back to that story of Samson and Delilah, we don't want to acknowledge or see the red flags. And in many cases, we don't even realize the red flags or see the red flags until maybe the end of the relationship. And then we go back like, wow, there were a lot of red flags in that relationship that I was ignoring or not paying heed to. Maybe this person was constantly verbally attacking you, saying mean, negative things, and you just washed it over like, okay, I see you're having a bad day, and not acknowledging the fact that this person is toxic and is verbally not just harassing me or humiliating me or devaluing me, but it's also causing trauma and hurting me because it's creating low self-worth within myself. Another thing with our betrayal blindness that we may do is we ignore the infidelity. And I can relate to this. When I was married, that was a very long time ago, and I was very young, and so was my ex-husband. And throughout our marriage, he had other multiple relationships, and because I was so committed uh, to my toxic loyalty to this person, I stayed even though there were many red flags that, he might be seeing other women, or I had other women calling my phone like, I'm with your man. And I'm like, no, you're not. He's at work, or etc. I overlooked it because I didn't want to believe that he would pursue another woman when he was married to me. And, maybe some of you can all identify with this. Another thing we might do is a freezing response. And I know when I was going through toxicity in some of my relationships, that was my go to response when I feel attacked by this person. So, this is when we go numb, when it's like we just shut out the whole outside world. And instead of acknowledging, hey, this person is toxic, they're hurting me mentally, emotionally, verbally, because we can't really ignore that physical, because if you get hit, that's very obvious. But we just shut it all out and go numb, and just try to deal with it until it passes over, until we get into another happier or that honeymoon stage again. As also as victims of betrayal trauma, one of the other forms that we may use with this betrayal blindness is we want to interpret events differently while trying to make excuses for our partner. I find myself doing this in a relationship where, I would say, me and so, we got into it. He really went off on me. And, other people could see the toxicity that this person was doing to me. And I was making excuses for, well, he was just angry. He just was having a bad day. Or, well, I probably shouldn't have set him off. If I hadn't have set him off, this never would have happened. And that's another form of our betrayal blindness. Us trying to protect our accuser or our abuser, when we really should be looking at it from a standpoint of something's wrong. This isn't healthy, and I no longer want to entertain this toxicity that I'm experiencing in this relationship. So I didn't see any key points on how to protect ourselves or how to heal. I guess it would be how to heal from betrayal blindness. So I'm going to throw in my own. I think one of the things that we should do, and I love this, I watch a lot of Dr. Ramani videos, radical acceptance. Radical acceptance says, I accept that this is who this person is. This is the experience that I'm going through, and I accept my feelings in this experience. I don't like the way this feels. This isn't healthy. Maybe I need to put some distance between me and this person if it's safely to do so. Another thing we can do is again, it's always great to have a confidant, someone we can confide in about our experiences. That saying about what goes on in this house stays in this house needs to end, because if you're over there and you're being verbally abused, verbally attacked, physically abused, and no one knows about it, you can't even talk about it for help. That needs to change. There should be someone that we can confidently go to and say, correct me if I'm wrong, or what do you think about this scenario? I'm starting not to feel, and we might not always say we're not feeling safe. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm feeling uncomfortable with how this person is treating me. So we want to have someone that we can confide in. And I've said this before in a video, you can always go to a domestic violence hotline and you can speak with them anonymously about your experience, so that you just have someone to talk to, so that you can relay your feelings and your emotions, and maybe gain some knowledge on your circumstance. And I'm always going to throw in seek therapy, because it all comes down to us, our love for ourselves, our rebuilding our trust for ourselves, so that we can acknowledge when we need to set healthy boundaries, that we no longer want to tolerate um, accepting things, having this betrayal blindness, and accepting things that we never should have tolerated. So that ends this week's video. Make sure you check me out on my YouTube channel or all my social medias. If no one told you they love you today, I love you.